It's 2004. A brand new pickup rolls off the lot, chrome gleaming, paint flawless. Under the hood, a 5.4-liter V8 that promises power, durability, and the kind of reliability that built the Ford name. For millions of Americans, this wasn't just a truck. It was the truck, the Ford F-150, the best-selling vehicle in the United States, year after year after year, not just in its segment, not just among pickups, but the #1 selling vehicle in America, period. But what almost nobody knew was that hidden inside that engine was a ticking time bomb. And what happened next didn't just frustrate owners, it nearly shattered Ford's reputation for good. You think you know the story of the Triton? Not like this. Because this isn't just about an engine, it's about ambition, engineering shortcuts, and one of the most controversial V8s ever put into a pickup. It's about what happens when corporate deadlines clash with engineering reality, when cost-cutting meets real-world consequences, when millions of customers become beta testers without ever knowing it. Back in the late 1990s, Ford was facing a problem. A big one. GM was pushing hard with its Vortec lineup. Dodge had the Magnum engines. Trucks were getting faster, stronger, more refined. The market was evolving. Customers wanted more power, more refinement, more technology. And Ford needed something new to stay on top. The old Windsor and Cleveland V8s had served them well for decades. Pushrod engines. Simple, reliable. But they were getting old. Outdated. They couldn't meet the demands of modern emission standards, couldn't deliver the efficiency numbers the EPA was pushing for, couldn't compete with what the competition was rolling out. So they built the Triton family, modular engines, overhead cams, modern design. This wasn't your old school pushrod V8 anymore. This was the future, or at least, that's what Ford wanted everyone to believe. At the center of it all was the 5.4 Triton. On paper, it looked solid. A 5.4-liter displacement. That's 330 cubic inches. A bore of 3.55 inches and a stroke of 4.17 inches, giving it a long stroke design focused on torque. Exactly what truck buyers wanted. That long stroke meant strong, low-end pull. The kind of grunt you need when you're towing a trailer up a mountain pass or hauling materials to a job site. Early versions ran a single overhead cam setup, 2 valves per cylinder, around 260 horsepower and roughly 350 lb-ft of torque. Not groundbreaking, but respectable for the time. More importantly, it was a jump forward in refinement, smoother operation, better fuel economy than the engines it replaced, quieter at idle, and more importantly, it felt modern, smooth, quiet, refined, the kind of engine that made Ford salesmen smile when they took customers for test drives. Ford rolled it out across the lineup: F-150s, Expeditions, E-Series fans, even performance variants later on. The Lincoln Navigator got it, fleet vehicles, government contracts. This engine wasn't just in consumer trucks, it was in police vehicles, construction fleets, delivery vans. This engine wasn't just important, it was everywhere. Ford had bet the farm on it. Billions in development, retooling factories, training mechanics, building supply chains. This was an all-in moment, and at first, it worked. Sales exploded. The F-150 kept its crown. Owners trusted it. Dealers sold it by the millions. Production lines ran overtime. Bonuses got paid. Executives celebrated. For a brief moment, it seemed like Ford had nailed it. But then, the cracks started to show. At first, it was small. Easy to ignore. A rough idle here, a misfire there. Minor complaints that service departments could dismiss as isolated incidents. One-offs, flukes. Nothing to worry about. But then came something far worse. Spark plugs were literally shooting out of the engine. No warning, no buildup, just bang. 1 second you're driving down the highway, the next, a loud pop under the hood, loss of power, and the unmistakable smell of burning fuel, sometimes accompanied by a hissing sound, sometimes a complete loss of cylinder compression. The problem? The cylinder heads. In early 5.4 Tritons, Ford designed the aluminum heads with very few threads to hold the spark plugs in place, sometimes just 4 threads. 4. For comparison, most engines use anywhere from 7 to 12 threads. Ford went with 4. Why? Some say it was to save weight. Others claim it was manufacturing cost. Either way, it was a critical mistake. At normal operating temperatures, that might hold. But under load, high heat, constant expansion and contraction, the thermal cycling that happens thousands of times in normal driving, those threads would weaken, strip out, And suddenly, that spark plug had nothing holding it in. So it blew out, violently, taking the ignition coil with it, damaging the head, sometimes even starting fires. Mechanics reported seeing plugs launched completely out of the engine bay. One owner told a story of a spark plug embedding itself in his garage wall after an ejection. The repair wasn't simple either. You couldn't just thread it back in. The aluminum was stripped, gone. Some shops tried helicoils. Others used time certs. In severe cases, the entire cylinder head needed replacement. We're talking thousands of dollars for a spark plug issue. Owners were stunned. Mechanics were furious. And Ford? They were about to face a storm. Service bulletins started circulating, quietly. Ford offered some repairs under warranty, but only if you caught it in time, only if you knew to complain, and only if your dealership actually acknowledged the problem. Many didn't. They blamed owner maintenance, said the plugs weren't torqued properly, pointed fingers anywhere but at the design. But that wasn't the only issue, because just when Ford tried to fix one problem, they created another. By the mid-2000s, the Triton evolved. More power, more efficiency. A new 3-valve per cylinder design. Variable cam timing. This was the 5.4 growing up, learning from its mistakes. Or so everyone thought. Now we're talking about around 300 horsepower and 365 lb-ft of torque. Compression ratios climbed to about 9.81. Performance improved. Fuel economy got slightly better. Throttle response felt sharper. On dynamometers, the numbers looked good. On paper, this was the Triton perfected. But under the surface, a new nightmare was forming. This time, it wasn't spark plugs blowing out. It was spark plugs getting stuck. And not just stuck. Seized, fused, broken. The new 2-piece spark plug design had an extended electrode tip that reached deeper into the combustion chamber. The idea was better combustion efficiency, more complete fuel burn, lower emissions. Great in theory. Over time, carbon buildup would form around that tip. Combined with the dissimilar metals between the plug and the head, galvanic corrosion set in. Heat cycling made it worse. The plugs essentially welded themselves into the heads. So when it came time for a routine tune-up, the top half of the plug would come out. And the bottom half? It stayed buried inside the engine, snapped clean off, like a broken bolt. But worse, because it was inside the combustion chamber. Mechanics started seeing it everywhere. F-150s, Expeditions, even Lincoln Navigators. It didn't matter if you were gentle, didn't matter if you used penetrating oil, didn't matter if you let the engine cool completely, the plugs broke. Almost every single time. Removing those broken plugs wasn't easy. Special tools had to be developed. Kits sold online specifically for this problem. Hours of labor. Sometimes the cylinder head had to come off completely. And if you were really unlucky, the ceramic insulator would shatter, sending pieces into the cylinder. Then you're looking at a complete teardown to retrieve every fragment before they destroy your pistons and cylinder walls. A simple spark plug change turned into a $1,000 repair. Owners scheduled what should have been a $200 tune-up and walked out with a $1,500 bill. And customers were not happy. Online forums filled with horror stories. DIY mechanics warned others. Don't touch the plugs unless you absolutely have to. Some owners just lived with misfires rather than risk breaking a plug. Independent shops started refusing the work, too risky, too time-consuming, too likely to turn into a nightmare. But there was still more. Because deep inside the 5.4 Triton, another issue was quietly destroying engines. The cam phasers, part of the variable cam timing system, designed to adjust valve timing on the fly for better performance and efficiency. Hydraulically controlled, oil pressure actuated, modern technology borrowed from European performance engines. In theory, brilliant. In reality, disastrous. Over time, the phasers would wear out. Oil pressure issues made it worse. Sludge buildup, poor maintenance intervals. But even trucks with religious oil changes weren't immune. The tolerances were tight. Too tight. The components couldn't handle the real-world conditions they faced. And then came the sound, a loud metallic knocking, like a diesel engine, especially at startup. Cold starts were the worst. That first 5 to 10 seconds after ignition, the truck would sound like it was full of marbles. Owners described it as a death rattle. Because once it started, you knew something expensive was coming. At higher RPM, oil starvation could hit critical components. The phasers couldn't maintain proper timing. Timing chains would slacken. Tensioners failed. Guides wore through. And in worse cases, complete engine failure. Valves meeting pistons, bent rods, scored cylinder walls. The kind of damage that means you're shopping for a new engine or a new truck. And here's the part most people don't realize. This wasn't happening in race cars or high-performance builds. This was happening in everyday trucks, work trucks, family trucks, the kind people relied on every single day. Contractors heading to job sites, families driving to soccer practice, people who needed their vehicle to work. Every single day, without question. These weren't hot-rodded engines being abused. These were stock trucks, maintained per the owner's manual, driven normally, and they were failing. So what do you do when your best-selling engine starts failing in public? Ford tried fixes, updated heads, improved spark plug designs, revised cam phasers, better oil flow strategies, upgraded tensioners, modified oil pumps. Each model year brought small changes, incremental improvements, band-aids on bullet wounds. They issued technical service bulletins, quietly, internal documents that dealers received but customers rarely heard about unless they specifically asked. No recall, no public acknowledgement, just quiet fixes for those who complained loud enough. But the damage? It was already spreading. Forums exploded with complaints. Mechanics warned customers. Lawsuits started appearing. Class actions, individual cases, settlements that came with non-disclosure agreements. Consumer Reports started downgrading reliability ratings. JD Power scores dropped. The internet became Ford's worst enemy. Information spread faster than the PR department could spin it. And yet, the Triton kept selling because despite all its flaws, when it worked well. It had strong low-end torque. That long 4.17-inch stroke delivered pulling power right where trucks needed it. Towing capacity remained competitive. 8,000 pounds, 10,000 in later models. Real capability. In real-world driving, many owners pushed these engines past 200,000 miles, some past 300,000. There are fleet vehicles still running today with original 5.4 Tritons under the hood. But reliability? It became a gamble. Some engines ran forever. Others didn't make it past 100,000 without major issues. You could have two identical trucks built the same week in the same factory, and one would be bulletproof while the other spent half its life in the shop. And that unpredictability, that's what hurt the most. Because trust is everything in a truck. People buy trucks to work, to rely on, to keep for 10, 15, 20 years. They're investments, tools, partners in business and life. And slowly, that trust started to crack. Loyal Ford customers started shopping Chevy lots, looking at Toyota Tundras, considering the unthinkable, switching brands after decades of blue oval loyalty. By the late 2000s, Ford knew it had to move on. New regulations were coming, emission standards tightening, competition getting stronger. EcoBoost technology was emerging, the industry was shifting. So they began developing a replacement, something more efficient, more powerful, more reliable, something that could restore the reputation the Triton had damaged. That replacement would eventually become the Coyote 5.0 V8, a completely new design. Dual overhead cams, high revving, modern, and critically, properly engineered from the ground up. Lessons learned, mistakes acknowledged, even if only internally. And just like that, the Triton era started to fade. Production of the 5.4 Triton in the F-150 ended around 2010. Quietly. No big farewell. No commemorative editions. No celebration of the millions built. Just gone. Replaced. Forgotten by the marketing department, even as millions still drove them daily. But its legacy? That's complicated. Because on one hand, this engine powered millions of vehicles. It kept Ford on top during a critical time. It introduced modern V8 architecture to the masses. It proved that overhead cam designs could work in trucks, even if this particular execution was flawed. On the other hand, it became a cautionary tale about engineering compromises, about real-world durability versus lab testing, about what happens when small design flaws meet mass production, about corporate culture that prioritizes deadlines over quality, about the real cost of cutting corners. Today, the 5.4 Triton is remembered with mixed emotions. Some owners swear by it. They'll tell you theirs ran 300,000 miles with nothing but basic maintenance, oil changes, filters. That's it. Never a problem. Never let them down. Others, they'll never buy another Ford again. Because once you've dealt with blown spark plugs, broken plugs, or that dreaded cam phaser rattle, once you've paid thousands for repairs that shouldn't have been necessary, once you've been stranded on the side of the road because of a known design flaw, you don't forget it, and that's the real story. The engine that nearly destroyed the F-150 didn't do it overnight. It did it slowly, one failure at a time, one frustrated owner at a time, one broken promise at a time, until one of the most trusted names in trucks almost lost the trust it spent decades building. The F-150 had been America's best-selling vehicle for generations, built on reputation, on word of mouth, on fathers telling sons, "Buy a Ford, it'll last forever." The 5.4 Triton tested that loyalty like nothing before it. But in the end, Ford survived. They learned, adapted, and came back stronger. The Coyote proved they could build a great V8. The EcoBoost showed they could innovate. The modern F-150 is genuinely excellent because sometimes failure isn't the end of the story. It's the reason the next chapter gets written better. It's the painful lesson that prevents bigger mistakes down the road. And that's what makes the 5.4 Triton so fascinating. Not just because of what it was, but because of what it almost did. It almost killed the F-150, almost destroyed decades of customer loyalty, almost handed the truck market to the competition on a silver platter. But it didn't. Ford survived, barely, by acknowledging their mistakes, even quietly, by improving, by moving forward. The 5.4 Triton remains a reminder for engineers, for executives, for anyone building something that millions will depend on. Details matter, quality matters, and reputation, that takes decades to build, and one bad engine to nearly destroy. If you enjoyed this deep dive, let me know what engine or story you want next. There are a lot more hidden truths out there, and trust me, some of them are even crazier.